The security footage from that night was supposed to be erased, but some truths refused to stay buried. When four armed men walked into Seattle's most exclusive restaurant, they thought their target, a billionaire CEO dining with his 7-year-old daughter, was defenseless. They had disabled the security detail. They had the weapons. They had the element of surprise. What they didn't account for was the woman refilling water glasses at the next table. To them, she was invisible. Just another servant in a stained apron. A nobody. A ghost moving through a world that had long stopped seeing her. They were wrong. 5 minutes later, paramedics arrived to find the billionaire untouched, his daughter safely hidden in the kitchen, three professional killers unconscious on the marble floor, and a fourth who had fled into the rain. This is the story of Elena Cross, the woman who didn't exist until one little girl made her want to live again. Rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Obsidian Room, Seattle's most exclusive dining establishment. The restaurant was a cathedral of wealth, black marble floors polished to mirrors, crystal chandeliers casting fractured light across tables draped in Italian silk, and the subtle perfume of money hanging in the air like incense. Elena Cross moved through this world like a shadow. She was 34 years old, with dark hair pulled back in a severe bun and eyes the color of storm clouds. Her white shirt was crisp, her black apron spotless, her movements efficient and utterly forgettable. That was the point. 3 years of practice had taught her how to be invisible, how to refill glasses without being seen, clear plates without being noticed, exist in spaces without leaving a trace. Once she had been someone, Sergeant Elena Cross, 75th Ranger Regiment, close quarters combat specialist. She had extracted hostages from Taliban strongholds in Kandahar. She had survived ambushes that killed better soldiers. She had held her dying team leader in a drainage ditch while bullets screamed overhead, pressing her hands against wounds that wouldn't stop bleeding, whispering lies about how everything would be okay. But that wasn't why she disappeared. She disappeared because of Sophie, her baby sister, 26 years old, bright smile that could light up a room, terrible taste in men who didn't deserve her. Sophie had called 3 years ago, her voice shaking through a connection that crackled with distance and fear. "He's going to kill me, Ellie." "I know he is. Please come home." Elena had been deployed, 12,000 miles away. She had promised to come home, promised to protect her, promised that everything would be okay. 48 hours. That's all it would have taken to save her. She missed that window by 2 days. By the time she reached Ohio, Sophie was in a body bag, beaten to death in her own kitchen by the man who had sworn to love her. The police had been called 3 times before. The restraining order had been ignored. The system had failed. Everyone had failed. Elena had failed most of all. Now she poured wine for strangers who didn't bother to learn her name. She answered to Waitress and You There, and sometimes nothing at all. She was invisible, and that was exactly what she needed to be. "Elena." A warm voice cut through her fog. Margaret Chen stood at the kitchen pass, her silver hair tucked beneath a chef's toque, her weathered hands steady despite 72 years of use. Margaret had spent 30 years as an emergency room nurse at Harborview Medical Center before becoming one of Seattle's finest chefs. She had seen trauma in all its forms: gunshot wounds, car accidents, the quiet devastation of domestic violence. She recognized the look in Elena's eyes the day she applied for the job, the hollow stare of someone who had seen too much death and didn't know how to stop seeing it. Margaret had hired her without asking questions, but she knew. She always knew. "Table 4 is ready," Margaret said, her voice low. "The Hartwell reservation." A pause. "The little girl is with him tonight." Elena's chest tightened. She knew Nathan Hartwell by reputation. 38 years old, billionaire CEO of Hartwell Defense Systems, builder of cybersecurity infrastructure for the Pentagon, a man whose face appeared on magazine covers and whose name moved markets. She also knew he was a widower. His wife, Catherine, had died in a car accident 2 years ago. The tabloids had covered it extensively. The tragic billionaire, the beautiful wife, the daughter left behind. What she hadn't expected was to see the child tonight. Nathan Hartwell sat in the semi-private alcove, his gray eyes fixed on a tablet displaying encrypted documents. He looked exhausted, not the tiredness of long hours, but the bone-deep weariness of a man carrying grief he refused to acknowledge. Beside him, nearly swallowed by the oversized leather booth, sat Lily Hartwell, 7 years old, honey blonde hair that caught the candlelight, eyes that carried far too much weight for someone so young. She wasn't playing with crayons or a tablet like other children in expensive restaurants. She sat perfectly still, hands folded in her lap, watching her father work, waiting to be noticed. Nathan's security detail sat at a booth near the entrance. Two massive men in dark suits. The larger one was Burke, with a scar running through his left eyebrow and the quiet confidence of someone who had seen combat. His partner, Tanner, was younger, more alert, constantly scanning the room. Elena cataloged them automatically. 40 feet from their principal. Too far. Sloppy positioning. She approached table 4 with menus, her footsteps silent on the marble. "Good evening, Mr. Hartwell. Welcome back to the Obsidian Room." Nathan didn't look up. His fingers continued scrolling through documents. "The usual, and a kid's menu for my daughter." He didn't say her name, didn't acknowledge her presence. The observation lodged in Elena's chest like a splinter. She turned to the little girl. "Hi there. I'm Elena. What's your name?" Lily looked up, startled. Adults didn't usually speak to her directly. She was accustomed to being talked around, talked about, but never talked to. "Lily," she whispered. "That's a beautiful name, like the flower." Elena crouched down to eye level, a habit from her extraction days when frightened children needed to see a friendly face. "Do you know what lilies mean?" Lily shook her head slowly. "They mean I dare you to love me." Elena smiled gently, her first real smile in months. "Pretty brave flower, don't you think?" Something flickered in Lily's expression. Not quite a smile, but close. The ghost of an emotion she had forgotten how to feel. Nathan finally looked up from his tablet. He stared at Elena, really saw her for the first time. His storm-colored gaze narrowed slightly, as if trying to solve a puzzle he hadn't known existed. "The usual," he repeated, his voice softer now. "Please." Elena nodded and retreated toward the kitchen. She didn't notice Lily watching her go, watching with the intensity of a child who had just recognized something important. Margaret was waiting at the kitchen pass, her expression tight. 4 men just came in, front door. Elena's training kicked in before her conscious mind caught up. She moved to the small window in the kitchen door, scanning the dining room. 4 men. Expensive suits that didn't quite fit right. Too much room in the shoulders, tailored to conceal weapons. Diamond formation, tactical spacing. Their hands stayed near their waistbands. The lead attacker was a wiry man with dead eyes and military-precise movements. He moved like a predator who had done this many times before. Their eyes were locked on a single point. Table 4. Elena's blood turned to ice. She watched them neutralize Nathan's security detail in 4 seconds flat. 2 suppressed shots dropped Tanner before he could react. Burke lunged from the booth, but another attacker drove a blade into his shoulder and slammed his head into the host stand. Burke crumpled to the floor, but as Elena would later realize, he crumpled a little too perfectly, a little too rehearsed. She should have noticed, but there was a little girl to save, and no time for second-guessing. "Call 911, Elena said, her voice dropping into a register Margaret had never heard. "Tell them armed intruders at the Obsidian Room, multiple casualties, then lock the kitchen and don't open it for anyone but me." "Elena, what are you?" "There's a little girl out there, Margaret." The older woman saw the change in Elena's posture. The ghost was gone. The soldier had returned. "Go," Margaret whispered. "Bring her to me." Elena didn't think about Sophie. She didn't think about Kandahar. She thought about Lily Hartwell, 7 years old, sitting in that booth, waiting to be noticed by a father too broken to see her. A little girl who had lost her mother and might lose her father in the next 60 seconds. She grabbed a wine bottle from the nearest table. The wiry leader raised his weapon toward Nathan. His voice was cold, professional. "Mr. Hartwell, you're coming with us." He glanced at Lily. "The girl stays. We don't need witnesses." We don't need witnesses. They were going to kill her. Something inside Elena snapped. "Mr. Hartwell, get down." Her voice wasn't soft anymore. It was steel wrapped in gravel, the voice of a woman who had killed 17 men in combat and would add more without hesitation. She yanked Nathan sideways as the first bullet shattered his wine glass. In the same motion, she scooped Lily from the booth. The girl was light, so light, her small arms wrapping around Elena's neck with desperate strength. "Kitchen door, now!" She shoved Lily into Margaret's waiting arms through the service entrance and turned to face four armed killers with nothing but a wine bottle and 20 years of training. The first attacker reached her. He was linebacker-sized, dismissing her as an obstacle. Just a waitress, just a woman, just a target. He was wrong. Elena pivoted, slapping his gun arm wide while bringing the wine bottle down on his temple. Glass exploded. Red wine and blood sprayed across white tablecloths. He dropped without a sound. She caught his weapon before it hit the floor, ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, threw the useless gun at the second man's face. The distraction bought her a heartbeat. She grabbed a steak knife from the nearest table, drove it through the meat of his gun hand. A palm strike to his jaw, the crack of bone. 2 down, 2 to go. The wiry leader realized shooting her was impossible. She was too fast, constantly keeping obstacles between them. He drew a tactical baton. "Who the hell are you?" Elena grabbed a heavy peppermill from the table. Her chest was heaving, her apron stained with wine and blood, but her hands were steady. "I'm just the waitress, and you made a mistake." "What mistake?" "You threatened the little girl." The fight was brutal and brief. Elena broke the leader's collarbone with the peppermill, blinded him with a creme brulee torch, and delivered a precise knockout blow to his carotid artery. The fourth man, younger, less experienced, looked at his 3 fallen comrades. He looked at the woman holding a peppermill like a warhammer. He looked at the exit. He ran. Elena let him go. Her priority was the principal. She turned toward the kitchen door where Margaret stood holding Lily. The little girl wasn't crying. She was watching Elena with something that looked almost like recognition, like she had been waiting her whole short life for someone to fight for her. Near the entrance, Burke lay motionless on the floor, blood pooling from his shoulder wound. Elena's eyes passed over him without suspicion. Another victim, another casualty. She had no idea how wrong she was. Red and blue lights painted the rain-soaked street outside the Obsidian Room. Police cruisers lined the block. Paramedics loaded casualties into ambulances, including Burke, who was strapped to a gurney with his eyes closed, his shoulder wound professionally bandaged. Elena watched the ambulances pull away, cataloging faces, memorizing details. She should have verified each body personally, should have checked for signs of deception. But Lily had been crying, and Nathan had been in shock, and there hadn't been time, a mistake that would nearly cost them everything. She sat on an ambulance bumper now, a shock blanket draped over her shoulders, calculating the catastrophic error she had made. Waitresses don't disarm hit squads. By saving Nathan Hartwell, she had exposed everything she had spent 3 years burying. Detective James Reyes approached, rumpled coat, coffee-stained tie, eyes that had seen too much of Seattle's darkness. He was maybe 50, with gray at his temples and a wedding ring worn thin from years of absent-minded spinning. "Miss Cross," he flashed his badge. "Impressive work in there." His tone wasn't accusatory, almost respectful. "I ran your background. Elena Cross, born Ohio, moved here 3 years ago. Clean record. But there's a 4-year gap before that. No taxes, no address, no footprint." He leaned closer. "Where were you?" Before Elena could answer, a small voice cut through the chaos. "Daddy, where's the flower lady?" Lily Hartwell stood at the edge of the police tape, gripping her father's hand. Her silver dress was wrinkled but unstained. Her eyes scanned the crowd with urgent intensity. "There she is!" The little girl broke free and ran directly to Elena, wrapping her small arms around Elena's waist with surprising strength. "You saved us!" Lily's voice was muffled against Elena's apron. "You didn't let the bad men hurt Daddy." Elena froze. She hadn't been hugged in 3 years. Not since Sophie. Her voice cracked. "I just did what anyone would do." Lily looked up at her with those old soul eyes. "No, nobody ever does. They just look the other way." Detective Reyes watched this exchange. Something in his expression softened. He glanced at a photograph in his wallet, a little girl about Lily's age, grinning at the camera with missing front teeth. "We'll need a full statement, Miss Cross, but it can wait until tomorrow." He handed her his card. "Get some rest. You've earned it." Nathan insisted on driving Elena home. His armored SUV glided through Seattle's rain-soaked streets, the city lights blurring past like watercolors. Lily sat between them in the back seat, her small hand still clutching Elena's. "The fourth man," Elena said quietly. "The one who ran. He saw my face." Nathan nodded slowly. "Whoever sent them will send more. My address isn't safe anymore." As if the universe wanted to prove her point, they turned onto her street, and Elena's third-floor window exploded in a fireball of orange and black. She threw herself over Lily, shielding the child with her body as the shock wave rattled the SUV's bulletproof windows. Glass and debris rained down on the pavement. Car alarms screamed for 3 blocks. When the chaos settled, Lily was trembling but unharmed. Nathan's arms were wrapped around them both. "Your apartment," he breathed. "They work fast." Elena's voice was steady, but her hands were shaking. "Professional courtesy. If you miss the target, you destroy the evidence." She looked at the burning building. 3 years of careful invisibility going up in smoke. "I was the evidence." Nathan's safe house was a converted warehouse loft in Seattle's industrial district. Sparse, secure, forgotten. Elena cleared the space methodically while Nathan carried a sleeping Lily to a small bedroom alcove. Through the doorway, she watched him sit on the edge of the cot, smoothing his daughter's honey-blonde hair. "Daddy?" Lily's voice was sleep-heavy. "Yes, sweetheart?" "Why doesn't the flower lady smile?" Nathan paused, his hand stilled on her hair. "I don't know, Lily. I think someone made her sad, like how I got sad when Mommy went to heaven." A yawn. "Maybe we can help her not be sad anymore." Nathan's jaw tightened. He kissed her forehead. "Go to sleep, sweetheart." When he returned to the main room, Elena was standing at the window, staring at the rain. "She's special," Elena said without turning around. "You're lucky." "I know." Nathan poured 2 glasses of scotch. "I just forget sometimes. After Catherine died, I buried myself in work, protecting the company instead of my daughter." He handed her a glass. "She hasn't spoken that much to anyone in 2 years. Not until tonight." Elena took the scotch. "She asked why I don't smile. What would you tell her?" A long silence. Rain streaked the windows like tears. "Because the last time I smiled, my sister was alive." Nathan didn't push. He waited. And somehow, in that patient silence, Elena found herself telling a story she had never told anyone. "Sophie was 26. My baby sister. She married a man I told her not to trust." Elena's voice was flat, controlled, the way soldiers speak about casualties. "A charmer with a temper. She called me while I was deployed. Said he was going to kill her. I promised I'd come home. What happened? He beat her to death in their kitchen before I could get there. The police had been called 3 times. The system failed her." A pause. "I failed her most of all." Nathan was quiet for a long moment. "Catherine's accident wasn't an accident," he finally said. Elena looked up sharply. "Someone tampered with her brakes. I could never prove it, but I know." His eyes were haunted. "She found something. Documents, communications. Someone in my company was selling secrets. Before she could tell me, her car went off the road. You've been hunting them." "For 2 years." He set down his glass. "That's why I was at the restaurant tonight, meeting an informant." A ghost of a smile. "Instead, I met you." Elena studied him, this broken billionaire who carried his grief like armor. "So we're both running from ghosts." "Maybe." Nathan met her eyes. "Or maybe we're finally ready to fight them." "Work for me," he said. "Not as a bodyguard, as a partner. Help me find who killed Catherine. Help me keep Lily safe. What's in it for me? $5 million a year. But more importantly, I can build you a new identity, a firewall around your past that no one can penetrate." Elena thought about Lily, sleeping in the next room, wanting to help her not be sad anymore. "One condition," Elena said. "I'm not your employee. I'm your partner. I call the shots on security." "Done. And I'm teaching Lily self-defense." For the first time since she'd met him, Nathan almost smiled. She'd like that. Over the next 3 weeks, Elena transformed. She moved through Nathan's world like a shadow, analyzing threats, building security protocols, hunting for the mole who had killed Catherine. But something unexpected happened. Lily became her shadow too. The little girl followed Elena everywhere, watching her exercise, asking questions about her army days, bringing her drawings of flowers and stick figures holding hands. "This is you," Lily explained one afternoon, pointing to a figure with dark hair and a determined expression. "And this is me. And this is Daddy. We're a team." Elena's chest ached with something she couldn't name. "Lily, I'm just here to keep you safe. I'm not." "Not what?" "Not family. Not someone who stays." But she couldn't say it. Instead, she taped the drawing to the refrigerator next to a photo of Catherine. The investigation led them to Victor Crane, board member, venture capitalist, the man pushing Nathan to merge with a competitor. On paper, his motive was simple. The merger would make him $900 million. But Elena needed proof. The Tech Nexus charity gala was the perfect opportunity. The ballroom glittered with chandeliers and champagne. Elena wore an emerald gown with a thigh-high slit, elegant enough for the red carpet, functional enough to hide the Glock strapped to her leg. She spotted Victor Crane near the ice sculpture, laughing too loudly with a senator. "I need 30 seconds, she murmured into her earpiece. She moved through the crowd, playing the role of a tipsy socialite. When she reached Crane, she stumbled, catching herself against his arm, her clutch pressing against his jacket pocket. "Oh, I'm so sorry," she giggled. "These heels are murder." Crane brushed her off with irritation. "Watch where you're going." Inside her clutch, the RFID cloner completed its work. 3 seconds. Everything. Texts, calls, encrypted files. "Got it," she murmured. "Dance with me," Nathan said, appearing at her elbow. "We need to blend." They moved onto the floor as the orchestra swelled. Elena's mind was already parsing the cloned data. And then she found it. A folder of photographs. A young man with Crane's eyes. Medical records. An obituary. Marcus Crane, 24 years old, died of a drug overdose 18 months ago. "Nathan," her voice was barely a whisper, "I found something." Later, in a quiet alcove, they reviewed the evidence together. "Marcus was Crane's son," Elena explained. "You fired him 3 weeks before he died." Nathan's face went pale. "He was embezzling, stealing to fund his addiction. I gave him 3 chances. Paid for 2 rehab programs." Crane doesn't see it that way. Elena pulled up text messages between Crane and someone called Viper. "In his mind, you destroyed his son. So this is revenge. It's worse. He's planning to sell your DoD contracts to foreign intelligence, nuclear defense protocols. That's treason. That's a father who lost everything and decided the world should burn with him." Elena stared at the photograph of Marcus Crane, young, troubled, dead too soon. "I understand him," she admitted quietly. "After Sophie died, I wanted to burn the world too." She met Nathan's eyes. "Grief makes monsters of us all if we let it." Lily was sitting at their table, drawing pictures on cocktail napkins, stick figures holding hands, flowers everywhere. "This is our team," she announced when they returned. For a moment, Elena forgot she was hunting a traitor. She felt almost happy. Then her earpiece crackled. Margaret's voice, urgent, afraid. "Elena, remember Burke, Nathan's bodyguard who got stabbed at the restaurant? What about him? He's here, at the gala. But he's not protecting anyone. He's near the service entrance, talking to a man in a server's uniform. And Elena, I saw him hand over something. A photograph. A photograph of Lily." Elena's blood turned to ice. Burke, the bodyguard who had survived the restaurant attack. The wound that healed suspiciously fast. The way he had fallen so perfectly, so rehearsed. He was the mole. "They're coming for Lily. They're already inside. Move now." Elena looked across the ballroom and saw a man in a server's uniform approaching Lily's table. His hand was reaching into his jacket. Elena didn't think. She ran. And in that moment, every ghost she'd been running from, Sophie, Kandahar, the woman she used to be, ran with her. She crossed the ballroom in seconds, weaving through startled dancers, her emerald gown streaming behind her. Down! Elena tackled Lily off her chair as the fake server drew his weapon. The bullet shattered a champagne tower inches from where the child had been sitting. Glass exploded. Screams erupted. Elena covered Lily with her body. Close your eyes, sweetheart. Don't open them until I say. I'm scared. Lily's voice was barely a whisper. I know, but I've got you. I've always got you. Elena drew her Glock, fired twice. The fake server dropped. Nathan reached them, his face white with terror. Lily, she's okay. Take her. Kitchen, now. They burst into the service corridor and stopped cold. Burke stood there. Not the wiry attacker from the restaurant. Nathan's bodyguard, the man who was supposed to protect this family. The man with the scar through his eyebrow who had survived the restaurant attack with nothing but a shoulder wound. Hello, Sergeant Cross. Burke leveled his weapon at Nathan. Surprised to see me? You were never really hurt at the restaurant, Elena said flatly. The attack on you was staged. You're the inside man. Crane's been paying me for 2 years, ever since I joined Nathan's security team. Burke's smile was ugly. Who do you think told them where he'd be sitting? Who do you think unlocked the back exit? Nathan's face went gray. You've been in my home, around my daughter. And Mrs. Hartwell. Burke's smile widened. That was me too, by the way. Cut the brake lines myself. The words hit like bullets. Catherine's accident. The mole they'd been hunting. It was Burke. It was always Burke. She found out about the leak, Burke continued. Couldn't let her talk. Nothing personal, Mr. Hartwell. Just business. Lily was trembling in Nathan's arms. Elena positioned herself between Burke and the family she had sworn to protect. Let them go. Your fight is with me. Actually, my fight is with him. Burke's gun shifted toward Lily. Crane wants him alive. Something about looking into his eyes while everything burns. But the girl? His finger tightened on the trigger. Collateral damage. Take me. Nathan's voice cut through the tension. I'll go with you willingly. Just let Lily go. Daddy, no! Lily's scream was raw with terror. She's all I have left. Nathan's voice broke. She's everything Catherine and I dreamed of. Please, take me instead. Burke considered this. Noble, stupid, but noble. He reached for Nathan, and Elena saw her opening. She lunged. Burke fired, but Elena had already pivoted, using Nathan's momentum to spin him out of the line of fire. The bullet grazed her shoulder. Pain exploded through her arm, but she didn't stop. She drove Burke into the wall, disarmed him, delivered a precise strike to his carotid artery. He crumpled. Elena stood over him, bleeding, breathing hard. That was for Catherine, she whispered. Crane was escaping. His private jet was already taxiing at Boeing Field, engines whining, running lights cutting through the rain. Elena commandeered a police cruiser, Nathan and Lily in the back seat. She pushed the vehicle past 100 miles per hour. You're insane, Nathan said. Probably. Daddy, Lily said from the back seat. Elena drives really fast. She certainly does, sweetheart. Elena crashed through the airport's perimeter fence, tires screaming on wet tarmac. She cut off the jet's path, forcing an emergency stop. She stormed up the stairs, gun drawn. Victor Crane sat in the cabin, a broken man clutching a photograph of his dead son. It's over, Victor. You don't understand. Crane's voice was hollow. He was my son, my only child. Hartwell threw him away like garbage. Marcus was sick. Nathan tried to help him. He fired him, in front of everyone. 3 weeks later, Marcus was dead. My boy, my beautiful boy. Elena lowered her weapon slightly. I know what it's like to lose someone, she said quietly. My sister was murdered 3 years ago. I wanted to burn the world too. Then you understand. I understand the pain. But Victor, you almost killed a 7-year-old girl, a child who already lost her mother. Would Marcus have wanted that? Crane's face crumbled. I don't know anymore. Nathan boarded the plane. He looked at Crane, the man who had killed his wife. I'm sorry about Marcus, Nathan said. I wish I'd fought harder for him. I wish I'd seen a person instead of a problem. You're apologizing? To me? I'm acknowledging a truth. Catherine would have done better. She always saw people before policies. Crane's hand fell to his side. The fight drained out of him. I'm tired, he whispered. I'm so tired. Sirens filled the tarmac. Detective Ray has boarded the plane, handcuffs ready. Victor Crane, you're under arrest for treason, conspiracy to commit murder, and the murder of Catherine Hartwell. As they led him away, Crane looked back at Elena. Take care of them, he said. The little girl deserves better than what I had. 1 year later, the garden was blooming. Lilies everywhere, Catherine's favorite flower, nodding in the Seattle breeze. The Hartwell estate had been transformed from a mausoleum of grief into something that felt like a home. Lily Hartwell, 8 years old now, ran through the flowers with a chocolate Labrador puppy named Sergeant. She was laughing, really laughing, the kind of laughter that had been missing from this house for too long. Elena watched from the patio, coffee in hand, a smile playing at her lips. She's happy, Margaret Chen observed, settling into a chair beside her. The old chef had retired from the obsidian room 6 months ago. She's resilient, Elena said. Kids are tougher than we give them credit for. So are you, Margaret patted her hand. Sophie would be proud. Elena's throat tightened. She had been visiting Sophie's grave every Sunday, bringing lilies, talking to her sister like she was still there. I found them, Soph, a family I never expected. I think maybe you sent them to me. Inside the estate, Nathan was finishing a video call with the Department of Defense. The Lily Protocol, named after his daughter, was now standard policy at Hartwell Defense Systems. No algorithm-based coverage denials. Human review for every case. He ended the call and turned to find Elena in the doorway. The board approved the foundation, he said, the Catherine Hartwell Foundation for Domestic Violence Survivors. 20 shelters nationwide. Elena's breath caught. Sophie's story helped me understand, Nathan continued. No one should die because the system failed them. He crossed the room, taking her hands. You made this possible. All of it. I just wanted to keep Lily safe. You did more than that. His eyes were soft. You brought us back to life. Lily ran up, the puppy barking at her heels. Elena, Daddy, look! She held out her hand. A butterfly, orange and black, rested on her finger, wings slowly opening and closing. It landed right on me. Her eyes were shining. Margaret says butterflies are messages from heaven. Elena knelt down, her heart full. Do you remember what I told you? About signs from people who love us? Lily nodded solemnly. I think your mom is telling you she's proud of you, sweetheart. Lily considered this with the gravity only a child can muster. Then she looked at Elena with those wise beyond her years eyes. I think she's telling you something too. What's that? That it's okay to stay. Lily took Elena's hand. That you're part of our family now. You don't have to be invisible anymore. Elena looked at Nathan. He was watching them both, and she finally recognized the expression on his face. Love. I think, Elena said slowly, the butterfly might be right. That evening, after Lily was asleep, Elena stood at the window watching the rain. Nathan came up behind her, wrapping his arms around her waist. Penny, for your thoughts? I was thinking about Sophie, how she always said everything happens for a reason. Elena leaned back against him. I didn't believe her. For 3 years, I thought her death was just senseless. And now I think maybe she was right. Maybe I had to break before I could become someone new. Someone who could fight for Lily. Someone who could find this. This? She turned in his arms. Home. Nathan smiled. I was going to say the same thing. I love you, Elena said. Both of you. I love you too. He pulled her closer. Both of my girls. In the garden below, the lilies swayed in the evening breeze. And somewhere, maybe in heaven, maybe just in the hearts of those who remembered, Sophie Cross and Catherine Hartwell smiled. Their loved ones had found each other. They had found home. The end. Sometimes the people we're meant to protect end up saving us. Sometimes the families we lose lead us to the families we're meant to find. And sometimes, just sometimes, a little girl with a favorite flower teaches a battle-hardened soldier the most important lesson of all. It's okay to be seen. It's okay to be loved. It's okay to stay.